Every life's a story with no way to hit rewind. A lesson stitched together and the moments that define. The laughter and the heartbreak, the victories and scars. They shine a light for others like tiny guiding stars. Nobody knows your story. For most this would apply. Each of our stories can provide courage and inspire. Many lives have been lived by following the lead of others. But when we're authentic, our truths are discovered. Share your journey with the world. Don't keep it locked away. Your memories might spark a fire in someone else today. And when we share our story, we enable others to see there's time to write an ending you want others to read.
Welcome to the Nobody Knows Your Story podcast, where you will now hear another very interesting life story from, well, a pretty typical person. But if you've heard these stories before, you know they're anything but typical. Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of the life story of Julia Gosney. Or maybe just Julia, which might just be like Cher, we decided. So if you didn't hear part 1, I recommend you go back and listen to it. In the middle of this particular episode, part 2, I am going to put in that song I mentioned, Bamboo by Kimmy Minor. And it really is a good song about relationships. I'll let you guys be the judge of that, but I think it speaks to me, and that's why I put it in here. Because it's my podcast, and I can do what I want. Julia, hey, welcome back to part 2.
Yeah.
We just left off with, you've had your 4 boys. You
Two
guys,
stepsons.
Yep, 2 stepsons, 4 boys. And your marriages are kind of over now. Not your dating and not your whatever, but you've kind of decided, I guess, at some point, you're kind of done with being married.
Yeah. 2010.
Was that a conscious decision, or it's just like...
You know, I divorced my third husband, fourth marriage, in 2010. I had started a business prior to that, several years, maybe 4 years before that. And so I was kind of married to my business. And it's a family business. I wanted it to be a family business. I have all these boys. I don't work for a company and building a 401k. And Greg, of course, my second husband and third husband, was in the industry and got me into it. And I love it. And I have spent the last 20 years doing that. Just celebrated 20 years last month, by the way.
Yeah, and tell people exactly what you do.
In 2006, I opened the store, The Crowded House. And that's an interesting story. The Crowded House, furniture galore, is my baby. And at the time when I opened it up, Kevin, my third husband, was my partner. And I had worked total year, to save money to open this business, to start it, and with the down payments and the rents and the whatevers. And Greg was my mentor. So I have Greg involved, who owns a potato barn. I have Kevin involved, who is my partner / spouse. And David, who you all have heard about, is an artist, and I had his art hanging in my store. I had 3 husbands involved in this store, which made it very crowded. And that's hence where the name came from, The Crowded House.
And 6 boys.
And 6 boys, who, at one point, all of them have worked for me except for my stepsons, but my 4 boys. Well, Keaton, not necessarily. He delivers for me as we speak. I mean, does that on the side for his dad to help out, and me as well, and to make some extra money while he's an entrepreneur. But yeah, so I own The Crowded House and have since 2006. Still doing it. That's what I'm doing still to this day.
Yeah, and so basically, big furniture stores. You've had a couple different locations. Like you say, Greg has, I think, 3 right now, right?
He has 3
potato
stores
barns.
right now. I have 1.
Yeah.
But I've had 3 different locations, during the 20 years. And I'm in Mesa, Arizona now.
And it's really your life. I mean, that's what you do. You're there. Aren't you guys open like 5 days a week?
4.
4 days a week. But you've gone to like buying events and...
We go to market.
Yep.
Usually it's about 4 a year. 2 in Vegas, 2 in North Carolina, which is the big furniture hub, international market. And yeah, I've been going to that for many, many, many years. And that's where you go to market, you go to the showrooms, you see, touch, feel the merchandise and pick it. And I handpick everything that I sell personally. And I don't have a partner. Kevin is out and has been, a year after I got it. So I've been really doing this for 19 years by myself. But still have my mentor, Greg. David has still had art in my store from time to time. But now my son, Zach, shows his art in my store. But all the boys have worked at some point.
So you're working along, you're doing your thing. I remember you were living in the house in Mesa. And then if you ever want to fill in, but I'm just kind of chronologically going along in my mind. And I remember there was a Sunday, wasn't it a Sunday where you were making a deposit?
Well, let me tell you, I had never been in retail. Even as a young girl, I didn't work in stores and whatever. I was a waitress, and dealing with the public. But I have never dealt with like retail. And I'm going to tell you, people are mean. They're just not nice. And that was kind of a eye-opener for me in this industry because, furniture is fun. You're out, you're buying furniture. But, people are people and they have their reasons. But I would struggle and have fear, like panic attacks, that someone was going to get mad at me or come in and want to, we have policies and they want to break my policies and they want to return their furniture, they want to complain or whatever it is. And I would have literal, sometimes nightmares about, what if this happens? And I'm on my own. I'm running this store by myself and my kids are too young to really be involved at that point. And at the time, my store was on Gilbert and McKellips, my first store, and I literally lived 2 minutes from the store. So when I would get off work, I had no downtime. Even the drive home, I was home in 2 minutes. Sometimes I could walk to work or ride a bike to work. And I would come home and unfortunately in my family tree, we have a lot of drinking problems. Grandparents, brother, sisters. And I started to have a problem. So I would come home and to get rid of the anxiety and to come down off of the high of running this store, and it was about 22,000 square feet. So it wasn't a tiny store. I would drink and that was my go-to every evening just to mellow out. And for some people, that's okay. You have a drink, you mellow out and you get on with your life. I was a working alcoholic. I wasn't really a closet alcoholic, but didn't drink at work, but that was my go-to to mellow out. I wasn't on any medications or anything, but it got out of hand at one point. Eventually moved my store from Gilbert and McKellips to Germain and Dobson in Chandler. It was a beautiful store, about 16,000 square feet. Just business has not been good. I've been through the crisis of the real estate business back in 2006. Since I opened in 2006, that situation back then in Arizona was dire and wasn't doing well. And so I suffered from not only the anxiety of being a business owner, dealing with the public, but also the down of the industry itself because of the real estate. Usually when real estate goes bad, we don't have a very good time either in the furniture industry, obviously, which makes sense. But, and I'm a high anxiety person, lots of energy, lots of things going on, trying to raise boys on my own still. I was a single mother, and that was my go-to. And I did pretty well for a while. When I got to my second store, it started to get better, the industry. Real estate picked up. I had a pretty good thing going on, but was still drinking. Like I said, I only was open 4 days a week, Wednesday through Saturday, and it was a Monday, and I'd had a pretty big Saturday the Saturday before, and I had a lot of checks that I'd gotten in, which we don't get much of at all anymore, but that I needed to make the deposit, and because it was quite a bit of money. And I decided, and I had been drinking that day, and I decided to drive to the bank to put these checks in, and was in an accident with a bicyclist who was injured. He did not pass away, thank goodness, but he was injured, and I still live with that to this day, that I was involved in harming another person, that, whatever he still goes through with it or whatever, it has always been something that I've had to forgive myself for and deal with. Well, consequently, Arizona is a no, you cannot drink and drive. And because of the situation, and even though I had mitigating circumstances and was not, didn't break the law necessarily, he was injured, and I was given 5 years in prison.
Yep.
Long time.
And, there are some mitigating circumstances to that. And we know, Judy and I know about a lot of it. We've been in court when you were in there and different things, and been to visit you out in prison too. But,
oh yeah.
But none of us could believe 5 years for what had happened. I mean, and when we say the guy was hurt, I think he broke his collarbone or hurt his ankle or something. He broke his collarbone,
had a major laceration, not to mention whatever it did, psychologically to him or whatever. But
and you're right.
My fault.
And we're not minimizing it, but I thought it was ironic that he was riding a bike because he'd lost his license because he had a DUI. But again, it has nothing to do with it.
No, and you can go, well, he, blah, blah. No, I made the choice, and I did what I did. And I have never, ever said, oh, that's ridiculous. And I really have not. But other people, friends, family, other attorneys, I had at the time some very good people in the government positions, representatives, Arizona representatives, a couple senators, and, they were just all appalled by it. Even my sentencing judge, when I eventually I went to trial. I chose to go to trial instead of taking a plea deal. And the minimum sentence for something like what I was charged with is 5 to 15. Nobody, even my attorney, who I spent thousands of dollars on, said, you will not go to prison. You're not a criminal. It was an accident, blah, 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 blah. We had several prosecutors along the way. After the accident, I fought it for 19 months before it went to trial. For some reason, because of my mitigating circumstances, because of what transpired, nobody thought that I might serve some jail time. So nobody thought I would go to prison. Well, they got a highfalutin young prosecutor that he didn't have it out for me personally, but he was gung ho. They charged me with aggravated assault dangerous, which is as if I shot him with a gun. Mm-hmm. And since that time, I've had some of the people that I knew in the government try to change that law, especially on a vehicle. I should have got an aggravated DUI. Would not have gone to prison. I would have done jail time. For some reason, that passed, and the minimum sentence for that is 5 years. During my trial and everything, it was ugly. And I had a jury trial, which we tried to bypass the jury trial, and I don't think I would have gone to prison if the judge would have been the one that made the decision. And I made a mistake, and there was consequences to that mistake. And 5 years, the sentencing judge, with tears in her eyes, and I'm just saying, this is the judge I had. She was female. Said I would never. She made the announcement at the time of sentencing. I would never send you to prison if I had a choice. But because of what it is and the charge, I have to charge you, but I'm going to give you the minimum sentence, which was 5 years, which blew the minds of everybody, you know, family, friends, everyone. And I, you know, started that journey in 2013. My store was still open at the time. My ex-husband was helping my boys run the store, but eventually that had to be shut down because it was too hard. But in the sentencing process, the judge said, I have the opportunity as your sentencing judge to allow you to apply for clemency, which normally in normal cases, you have to be in prison 2 years and then you can apply for clemency. But she gave me permission to apply right away. So we did that. And it was very hopeful because during that process, which takes about a year, mine took about 7 months. The clemency board that was 5 members at the time, unanimously, and when I talk about going to clemency, it is not just you just sit there and they read your paperwork. No, you're on trial again, and you were there, I believe. Mm-hmm. And they put I'm on the stand, and they're asking me these pointed questions, and it's all on video, and I'm on a big screen, and I think I had 47 people at my clemency. I mean, it was a packed room, and I had a lot of support, but they went through the whole gamut of what happened, how it happened, and the charge and the sentencing and the length of time. And in the end, they unanimously voted wrong charge and excessive sentencing, meaning I shouldn't have been charged as a aggravated assault dangerous, should have been an aggravated DUI. They made that very clear. And then because of the charge, the sentence was excessive of 5 years. So what happens is this group of people in the clemency board, who is chosen by the governor, he interviews them, looks at their history, picks his team, and then they go to him and give their recommendation, which was they reduced my sentence to a year. At this time, I had done 7 months in prison. And everybody was celebrating. You know, they were like, oh, my gosh. And because I'm naive and I don't know the system, I was thinking, oh, yeah, okay, man, okay. I can do another 5 months or 5 months, whatever it was. And then you have to wait, and it goes to the governor after he gets the recommendation, and he has 90 days to make his decision, or her. At the time, it was a her, and she denied the clemency, which blew people away. It's like, here's your team who investigates this charge and the person and everything, and then you just deny it. It's very hard to get clemency. And after being in prison as long as I was, I never saw anybody ever go to clemency and come back with a unanimous charge and even get that far in the process, right? So I got that far. It was devastating to my children. It was devastating to me because of my kids. And the crazy thing is, you would think I would be angry, and my thing was, I knew I'd made a mistake, and I knew that there was a consequence to be paid. Did I believe personally that I should go for 5 years? I didn't even have a moving violation. It was a bad decision that day, but I thought, yeah, 5 years, to be away from my kids and my family. And yes, I had injured somebody, but my only thought was, this is what they decided. They said it was excessive. They said it was the wrong charge. And all the people that would talk about it, including you and Jude, were like, this is ridiculous. And in other states, I wouldn't have gone to prison. Yeah. But because of Arizona laws, that's where I ended up. But so I had to wait 2 years to reapply. And there were some pretty remarkable things that I was able to do while I was in prison, but I was able to apply again in 2 years. And I applied again. And the process is you have to be approved. Because of that sentencing judge in the beginning, I didn't have to go through phase 1, 2, and 3. I got to go right to the end where I got to meet with the clemency board. So that was a gift from her. Now I had to be approved the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase, and I got approved through all of them. I got to sit in front of a new board of clemency members, and they had reduced the clemency members from 5 members to 3 members, and you started the process all over again. I had the big support system. Many people came and supported it, and again, I was put on trial again, basically, to go through the process again, and the second clemency was a unanimous vote again. All 3 members said excessive sentencing and time served. And at this point, I'd served almost 3 years. And I did. It was like almost 3 years exactly by the time this verdict came back. And then it goes to the new, and in the process of all this, these same people in the government that I knew, the senator that was very involved and the Arizona representatives that I knew, would go to the new governor and plead my case and let them know that, this is her second clemency. She got a unanimous vote the time before. It was denied by the governor at the time, and now we want you to look at this. He had my file. He knew who I was.
And this was a new governor.
This was a new governor, different governor.
Yep.
And even his wife, who was very good friends with my friend who was a senator, she knew me, his wife, the governor's wife. So there was a lot of people involved in knowing Julia Gosney. They didn't know me personally, but they knew me. They knew my store. They knew, Greg. They knew my background. And he had said, and he was an incumbent. And so, he said he did become the governor. And he said, if her file crosses my desk, I will sign it. So when we got the unanimous vote again, we thought, and it was time served. Consequently, it passed on his desk. It went to his desk. He had it, and he denied it. Which, looking back and talking to people even back at the time, once they get in office, there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of bull crap. And so I don't know if he had pressure, but I know that they have to reach out to the victim and then they get their attorneys involved and then they fight it. They did not fight my first clemency approval. And the second time, where it could have been a possible release, they got heavy involved and fought it. And so they were out actually at the clemency hearing. They weren't very honest. They had some false information. And the clemency board, who are very smart people, some are judges, some are lawyers, they put them in their place. They said, those things are not true. Those accusations or this information you're feeding us is not accurate. But anyway, I got a unanimous vote, but it was denied again. Because it was denied, and there were a lot of government people that I knew involved, they were very upset. And they went to his people, the governor has his own attorney, and talked to them and said, her family's going to be devastated. I mean, they're all thinking, because not that, people promise things all the time and they don't follow through, but they think that, wow, a second clemency approval. And I don't know at the time that anything has happened yet. Once the verdict came out that he denied it, I didn't know that he had denied it. I had the lieutenant of the yard come and yank me out of basically my bed and shackle me and cuff me and take me away. And I'd never been in trouble, didn't have any tickets, I was a model, what do you call me? Prisoner, whatever.
Yeah,
in the big house.
Yeah,
I was a model prisoner in the big house. And I had done some really awesome things while I was in prison, and I was known for and different things, but took me and put me in the hole where I spent 67 hours of not knowing why I was there. And what the hole is it's a suicidal watch where you have someone watch you every minute of the day through a little glass window, horrible conditions, just I wore a monkey suit. They called it the turtle suit. It wasn't a monkey suit. It was a turtle suit. Consisted of Velcro that fit anybody, so you could adjust it. I was bleeding from the suit because it was scratchy, and I was little, and I was so little that they had to tighten it so it wouldn't fall off of me. And anyway, not a fun time. I would have to say, of all the incarceration I did, whether it was, county jail to prison, that was my worst 67 hours. And I didn't know why I was there. And none of the people in the facility where I was knew why I was there. It's a suicidal watch. So they're assuming, or the head of this department was assuming I was suicidal. They're not very nice to you. And I used to think, God, if I'm really, truly suicidal, I could bang my head on the wall till I'm dead the way you treat me. I mean, they treated you very poorly. Anyway, I will tell you the amazing thing about that time was because I had been on this yard for 3 years, the yard that they took me off of, which was a minimum yard called the Princess Yard with only 250 women, a working yard. Everybody worked, and you had a little bit more privilege there rather than being on the medium yard with 1,200 women. And then I went to a minimum yard of 2,500 women. And then I eventually went to this minimum princess yard. But because it's so small, you're kind of well known. And I was one of the older women in prison. There was a few women older than me. But because of my status on that yard and the things that I was doing on that yard, I was known. So I knew a lot of the officers. I never got in trouble. And quite honestly, the only time I would get in trouble is when I'd be talking to a officer and I'd reach out and touch his arm because I'm a very touchy-feely person, and they would back off and you can't touch me. And I'm freaking out. I mean, so naive. Let me tell you, I have so many stories of being so naive in prison. But they came and they volunteered their time to be the watch while I was there because they didn't want other officers doing it. I mean, they watch you go to the bathroom. They watch you, you're naked in this turtle suit. And so, I had people that cared about me, even though they were officers. And there's not good officers in there, but even the lieutenant offered when I finally got out because he thought I would press charges because they didn't do any of the protocol. But the word is that the governor wanted me watched because of what people were saying. She might not make it. And I had exactly 1 year to the day left when I got out of the hole. There was a long line of inmates there that I was friends with. I was a GED tutor, so a lot of my students, they were in line to give their account of who I was and that I wasn't suicidal. She's not. No, this is a normal person in prison, and she would never do that. She loves her children, she's got a business, she's going to, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that was rough, but I eventually got out, and I had 1 year left. So, and all I wanted to do was get out of that place. But the way it happened was I didn't know why I was in there. Nobody knew why I was in there. And the warden of the women's prison with my deputy warden of my yard came to see me while I was in the hole. And they said, "Do you know why you're here?" And I said, "I have no idea." And I'm in an office in the turtle suit naked, and I'm talking to these two women. And I said, "I have no idea why I'm here." And so they explained it to me. They said, "We're going to call your lawyer and she wants to talk to you." And that's when I found out I was denied my clemency. That is why I was there. My family came that weekend for visits, and I'm off the yard. They have no idea where I'm at. They're thinking I'm getting released, actually. They went home and started cleaning my house and getting ready for me to come home just to find out that I did not get my clemency. And at that point, dude, 67 hours into it, I just wanted to go back to my bunk. It was not a good thing, what I went through there, just emotionally, mentally, and the behavior and the things that, happened while I was there, not by the people that were watching me, but by the other people that ran that department, and which I'm not going to get into. But so they tell me, and I get on the phone, and she tells me that it would have been denied and blah, blah, blah. I find out then that I'm being given good time, which is if you don't get tickets and you're not in trouble during the time you're there, you only do, I got 8 months off of my time. So eventually I only did 4 years and 3 months. But I had exactly a year. I didn't have my release date, but eventually it lands on that I got out 1 year later. Yeah, I worked through that last year. The first year was super hard, harder than the last year, but in some respects, the last year, you're just counting down and you're just waiting for, that's my last September 1st. That's my last October 1st. That's, it's my last Christmas I'll have to do here. And I counted down the toilet paper that they gave me. I'm going to get this many toilet papers, and I have the book still. I got, however many toilet papers left. I have this many showers left because I booked everything out in this book and crossed it off and went through every step of my last, every holiday. It was in there and I marked it off. Don't have to do another 4th of July in here. Don't have to do this again. And it helped me get through it. But there's a lot of insight that I have gotten since I've been home about how my journey went in there. And I'm a very spiritual person. God, I had some crazy stuff happen in prison. I have some funny stuff. You want to hear one?
Yeah.
I'm in prison for a couple weeks. I am so green and so naive and so, my eyeballs are like poking out of my head. And I met some girls in county that went to prison at the same time I did, and I ended up on a yard with one of the girls who had been in prison before, and she was known as the Big Deal.
The Big Deal.
The Big Deal. And we hit it off, we just had a lot of, talks and stuff while we were in county jail, and then we ended up on the same yard. I was like a little freaking kitty cat following her around. I didn't have friends in there. She knew people in there, and people started calling me the Little Deal. And I told them, don't give me a prison name, please. I don't want a prison name. Don't call me that, please. I was very nice, but there was still part of Julia that came out. It's like, don't call me that, please. Don't give me a name. I don't want to be called the Little Deal. And I got respect. They did respect me. I had some people clothesline me. I had some people, knock me up against the wall. I had an officer punch me in the chest, accidentally, haha. But no, I had some crazy stuff. But I was in prison for 2 weeks, and I was sitting in the smoking section with the Big Deal and listening. There's lifers on that. I was on a medium yard where lifers go from the max to the medium, and that's where they stay till they're gone. And they're all smoking and talking. And I'm just sitting right next. And the Big Deal was a big deal. She was a big girl. So I remember sitting by her, and I just looked like this little kitty cat sitting, and I'm listening to their stories, and they're talking about these clocks, and they're talking about all this stuff. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, I love clocks. In my head, I'm thinking this. I own a furniture store. I have a whole wall of just clocks that I sell. And so, sometimes I don't have a filter, or I don't think before I speak, and I just kind of piped in. I love clocks. I said, I have a store. And I go, I own a furniture store, and they're all looking at me, and they're there's probably 20 women around this ginormous picnic table. And I'm talking about my clocks. And I said, even in my house, I don't just have one clock on the wall. I have a clock, big clock and a little clock by it. I have clocks on my nightstands and on my dresser. And I said, for some reason, I like clocks. And I was kind of laughing about it. And the Big Deal leans down and says, they're talking about Glocks. And I'm like, with a G? And which, as soon as I said with a G, the whole table busts up laughing. And I thought they were talking about clocks, and all along they were talking about Glocks.
Which is a gun.
Which is a gun, which I didn't know that was a gun. And you know what that did for me, Larry? And there were lifers on this yard. They said, we need to watch out for this woman. She is, we can't let anybody take advantage of her because, she obviously is super naive. And so I had some things happen like that helped me with protection because nobody bothered me. And, I passed out at one point a month into being in prison. They said I was dehydrated. I just think it was anxiety, but I went down, dislocated my jaw, tore open my face, landed in the rocks face first, did not know why. And they put me in the infirmary. When I had gone to prison from county, they put you in a cell where you're there for a couple of weeks where you're evaluated and all these things. You go to the dentist, you go to the doctor, you do all these things. They're preparing you to go to your cell and so forth. The person that was my cellmate was the lead person in a woman's gang. I won't give names. But anyway, scary woman and young. And because we were stuck in that tiny little cell for 2 weeks, we became, you just become acquainted. Mm-hmm. And she just really cared about me. And of course, she's sober and she's, not doing her thing. So she was pretty normal other than, tattooed and whatever. Total different side of my life. Never, would ever have met somebody like that. But anyway, because of that, she watched out for me, and she'd been in prison before, and she ended up on the same yard that I was on. And when I went down that day and she found out about it, she thought somebody had gotten to me, and she was out for blood. She was out looking, and then found out it was an accident and so forth. But, those kind of things happened to me, and they protected me from, and the crazy thing is I never really worried about it. I just was protected all the time while I was in there.
Thought love was easy, and I kept believing in that old fantasy, that fairy tale dream. Real life has shown us it's a roller coaster, and we had to learn where to take our turn. Oh, love, it's true. The storms will come, but we'll make it through. We'll grow together and set our roots. We'll be stronger than bamboo. If I've got you, there's no containing what we can do. We'll see the world from a bird's eye view. Yeah, we'll be taller than bamboo. Oh, ain't it crazy how we found our own way and we stayed evergreen? A shade of you and me, side by side, we lean into the light, and we've been with the breeze. We set each other free. Oh, love, it's true. The storms will come, but we'll make it through. We'll grow together and set our roots. We'll be stronger than bamboo. If I've got you, there's no containing what we can do. We'll see the world from a bird's eye view. Yeah, we'll be taller than bamboo. We know how to survive. Letting go, love comes alive. No, we won't break, 'cause we're stronger together. Side by side. Oh, love, it's true. The storms will come, but we'll make it through. We'll grow together and set our roots. We'll be stronger than bamboo. If I've got you, there's no containing what we can do. We'll see the world from a bird's eye view. Yeah, we'll be taller than, and we'll be stronger, yeah.
But I've had some crazy stuff happen. I've seen crazy stuff happen that, well, you can only see in prison. Yeah, I made it through it. My last 3 years on the Princess Yard, I was able to be a GED tutor, help rewrite some of the programs so the girls could actually pass. The girls weren't passing. A lot of women can't read, or they can't write, Anyway, I had another inmate with me that helped rewrite a part of the program that I believe they still use today to help them pass the essay version of the GED.
That, I was just going to say, I wanted to wait until you kind of finished, talking about your time there, but I wanted to talk about the good things that you were able to do that really are different from most inmates. You had that, and that was a big thing that you're talking about right there, to help the people, the gals, so they could pass their GEDs and different things. You helped rewrite that, but also, and Judy and I visited a few times. We were living out of, in Hawaii for part of your incarceration. So we weren't there. So when we came back, then we were able to visit you more.
You were one of my regular visitors.
Yeah. We came, and I remember one time just bringing Dustin. It was just Dustin and I came one time. But what I was going to say is, you guys, remember how you made all those blankets too? I was
they had the crochet program going on our yard. We have certain privileges on that yard that other yards did not have. Mm-hmm. One of them was a charity program for crochet program that another girl was running. And when she got out, they offered it to me because I learned to crochet in there, and they offered the job to me where you coordinate all the projects and you coordinate the yarn that comes in and you make the projects, and you have to make a blanket with this, just bags of certain colors and things that you put together, and you give it to girls that were in the program. And at the time there were 25 women in the program, and you had to be on good standings, and they only had 25 women doing it at the time. When I left, there were 50 women doing it, and we had the biggest charity program, I believe, that the prison produced. But it would go to homeless centers and women and children's centers and nursing homes, and we donated all our projects. And some of these women could crochet, and I was not one of those. I did 67 blankets while I was there, and it was one of the things that got me through my time. Mm-hmm. But I coordinated the program. I did the projects and got them out and kept the stats and the stuff for the prison. And it was a very rewarding job. I'd bag up all the projects and they'd ship them out. My best friend in the world, who came every weekend unless she was out of town, every weekend while I was in prison. She missed family events, soccer games to be there with me. And she got her church involved, and they were our biggest donators of the yarn. And we would get this yarn, and I even crocheted blankets for some of the officers who asked me can you make me this for my wife and whatnot. And so, I was in charge of the crochet program, which was a blessing in my life. And I have to say this, when I was in county, I said, I will do my time, which I had to do, but I said, with dignity, I don't want to become that. Mm-hmm. I want to stay true to myself. I wanted to be me and do this time. And I said, please don't throw me out on the highways. I didn't want to pick up trash. I wanted to do something productive. I've always been kind of a productive person, and I was blessed. I was an MC for many events on our yard, including the lieutenant's birthday where I sang, and the deputy warden who was moving yards where I sang and ran the whole program and had an event for the program. I started a choir on that yard, and we had events with that, and Christmas shows. I wasn't in charge of the Christmas shows, but the choir was involved in that. So I got to do and be blessed with opportunities that kept me who I was. And I'm grateful for that, because that's what kept me going. Not everybody gets to do that. And I got to do that. And I really feel like I was blessed, because I said, I will do my time and I will do it, but please help me to not have to. Not that I was better than anybody and I shouldn't have to pick up trash. I just wanted to be productive. To me, that was just picking up trash, and I wanted to help. And I was able to actually do that while I was there, which was incredible and helped me with my time while I was there. And I'm grateful for that. I believe the crochet program is still going. I didn't start the program, but I increased the program, and I believe even that church still donates to that program. So that was a blessing.
I think one of the things that I want to make sure to point out here is because I feel like there was times where I was more angry at what was going on with you than you were, but or maybe your other friends and family were more angry.
That's how it was. Everybody was ticked off. I mean, it was not good.
And what I was going to say is, it's not that you didn't make a mistake. It's just back to what the clemency board said. 5 years was just extreme for what happened. When you start to see things on the news about somebody getting out of serving 3 years and getting out for killing somebody or something like that, you're like, what the hell? Why is Julia getting 5 years? I mean, that's the part. And that's all I wanted to say about that, is because sometimes when you're saying like, well, that seems extreme, it's like, well, you shouldn't have done that or whatever. Yeah, no duh. But I mean, anyway, enough about that.
I took it, and you know what? I did my time, but I'm going to tell you that, I don't know what the victim went through those first few years and the recovery that he had to go through. He was a young man. He was a school teacher, and, he had quite a recovery. And, that haunts me still today. I've done my time, and I've served my time with the most dignity that I could muster up while in there. Not that it wasn't hard, not that I would stare out the window and you watch people drive down the 10 or, the freeway there. I was in Goodyear, Arizona, and I could see the cars going on the freeway, and I would close my eyes and just want to be transported into one of those cars. I wanted to go home. I missed my kids. I learned some great things about myself. I learned how to compartmentalize my life in there, my thoughts about my life outside while I was in there, because, I was having a hard time thinking straight in the beginning, and I learned how to compartmentalize and put it in boxes and take them down off the shelf and open them up when I was dealing with my son's divorce while I was in there, and my first grandbaby being born while I was in there, and trying to emotionally get through those things so they weren't just all hitting me in the face all at once. I learned to do that, and I still try to practice that today. I'm not as good as I was in there, but I learned some great lessons about myself and getting through hard situations that I thought I would, think about it. If you think about, normal person going to prison, and you see the prison shows and the prison movies and all this, it's scary to think about going. And in the beginning, when I thought I could go to prison, I told friends, I actually told my attorney, I'm not doing it. I'm not going. And she goes, what does that mean? And I wasn't going to say it out loud, but I said, I'm not going. Meaning I was on the verge of checking out before I went. And she called my best friend again of 35 years, and who's here with me in Arizona today, or in Utah today, by the way, and warned her. And
I want to give a shout out to Joni, because Joni has been
the
with
best
you.
friend.
Yep. And through everything you're talking about here, all of it. She's been there. Yeah.
Yeah. And she called her, who she knew very well. My attorney called her and told her what I had said. And immediately they were all at my house within an hour. My 3 really good friends, including, she was out of town. So she called my other 2 friends, and they were there. And, they kind of slapped me on the wrist and said, how dare you think that? How dare you go there? You got children. And I was out of my mind. I just thought, I can't go. I can't do this. I'm a normal person. And yes, I made a mistake, but I can't do it. And anyway, those people that came and promised me, if you go, we will be there. And they were all there. I had the biggest support system. Greg, my second and third husband, which I like to joke about, came every single weekend. This is a busy guy. Came every single weekend with my son, our youngest son, unless he was in New York visiting his family or at market, because he still had his stores. Every single weekend. My best friend was there every single Saturday, unless she was on a family vacation. But she missed her son's soccer games. She missed family events to be there for me, and never, ever. And if she couldn't be there, she'd call one of my other friends. My son and daughter-in-law, who had a baby, my first grandbaby while I was there, came every weekend. When the baby was born, brought him in at 3 weeks old and was coming every weekend. And it's a jaunt out to Goodyear. I finally told him, listen, you need to have a break. As much as I wanted them there and needed them there, they would come every other week after that so that they could have a weekend where they weren't having to, take the baby. But I got to see my grandbaby twice a month, watch him grow up. I had support, which is another thing that was a blessing that got me through the whole thing. But yeah, it's crazy looking back now. I have been home. I'll be home 9 years in October, which is double the time I did in prison. And this time has flown by so fast, and I can remember absolutely everything about being in prison. But I want to say something about being in prison. It's almost commonplace now in families. They had at least one family member that's been to jail or been in trouble or, even been to prison. But when you hear the term doing time, that is all it is. You're watching the clock. And I remember getting through the 5 minutes. I'm like, I just got to get through the next 5 minutes. And then the next 5 minutes. I mean, that's how it was the first 7 months I was in prison till I got to a little bit better yard and more privileges and stuff. But the sad thing is, it is a revolving door in there. I made friends with a lot of young women that didn't have a great support system and went down the wrong road. And I became kind of a mom to a lot of girls that didn't have a mom or a good mom for whatever reason. I became a mom in there to some of those women. And a couple of them I was able to be involved with when I got out, as long as they were staying where they needed to be, But I learned that, I was stronger than I ever knew. I look back and my best friend, Joni, would say, this is going to be a snippet of time when you get out and you get back into your life and you get back to normal living. And I couldn't see it then, because you're literally counting. I didn't count 5 minutes for the rest of the time I was in there, but you wait till the next holiday's over. Okay, I only have 2 more of those holidays. And you're just counting time. And I have that book still in my prison box, which I still have. I still have the shoes I wore from the beginning of my time in prison that had holes in them, and I kept them for that reason. And I look back at these shoes that were all torn up inside, and I wasn't one of those people that I was I had support, so people put money on my books, and I had as much as I could receive in prison under those circumstances. And they would say, why don't you buy new shoes? And I did have a nicer pair for visits. But I said, and this is a reminder of what my walk is. And I still have those shoes. I was going to burn them. I was going to have a big burning party when I got out. That was my plan, to keep the shoes, burn them. But they're in that box, and they are a reminder of the steps I took and the length of time I did and what I learned along the way and the things that I was able to do while I was there. And not everybody got to do that. So I'm not saying, it was a great time. I got to do this, got to do that. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I was blessed. And I'm a very spiritual person. I'm not a very religious person these days. But, the things that got me through it mostly was Heavenly Father, who I still believe was the reason I got my clemency the first time. Then waited 2 years, got my clemency the second time. Because if I would have had to face the 4 years and 3 months all at once with no hope, I don't know, because it was hard. But those things to look forward to took up that time. Boom, that's gone. And then the next one I had to wait for. I did my time in increments, which helped me. I'm not saying that would have helped everybody, but that was aligned, I believe, as I look back, for me to do my time and not feel overwhelmed to the point where, I felt helpless and hopeless and whatever. I always had hope that something good was going to come out of it. I remember the smell of the day. I remember the feeling outside when I got out and I was free. I remember walking with my box to the car while my family stood there and waited for me to get there. Still feel it.
Yep.
And the fact that I was able to get through it and still remain who I was probably the best blessing. Did it change me? Yes. Did it make me a better person? Not necessarily. Other than hard things make you grow.
Yeah, and it didn't make you a bitter person.
No.
That's probably a good takeaway too. And as you're listening here, and these people listening out there in the world that are hearing this story, what's the old saying? Make lemonade out of lemons or whatever that you get. And that's kind of what you did. You were in there. You were, and again, we just briefly touched on some of the things that you helped people do help the girls with their GEDs and making crocheting all those blankets. And, you did some good things. It's like, hey, I'm going to be here. I might as well be useful. I might as well.
I had to.
Yeah.
And you know what? I want people to know that I'm not patting myself on the back.
No.
Oh, yeah. I made a huge decision that changed my life. I mean, I made the mistake. Nobody else did. Not my circumstances, not the people that were mean at my store that made me drink at night. I made those decisions, and I'm smart enough to know that there are consequences. I mean, I've taught my boys that their whole lives. You do this, there's a consequence. And it as embarrassing as it is, and as sad as it was for my boys, my biggest suffering was leaving them, not being there for my son who went through a horrible divorce, and it affected his life till the end. And that's another thing that has happened in my life that has been devastating. But I have been able to say that, and I'm not saying that, I mean, yes, I helped people in there, but you know what? It helped me. I was helped. And maybe I didn't deserve it. I made a mistake and I went to prison. Maybe I should have just suffered the whole time I was in there. And I did. I did my own private suffering and whatever, but I'm not patting myself on the back and saying, oh, look at me, what I did. It helped me through one of the most difficult times of my life, and embarrassing and belittling and that I did to myself. And I never want to go back there again. Tell you that.
Well, let's do this. Let's take, you've been out 9 years, like you said, almost 9 years, October. Let's talk a little bit about what's gone on in those 9 years since you've been out, because you've had some more life that has been lived, and it's not always pleasant. It's like the prison experience that you just talked about for the last 30, 40 minutes. It wasn't pleasant, but you dealt with it and you have some positive takeaways. Would you like to do it again? Hell no. Would you recommend anybody do it? Hell no. But it's life. I look back on the things that have happened in my life and it's like, okay, I learned for some of these negative things that have happened, but I learned from them. And sometimes it's just learning enough to know that you don't want to go through that again. So yeah, let's talk about the last 9 years, because one of the first things I remember when we moved back from Hawaii, well, we visited you and then you got out, but you hadn't been out very long. I'm trying to remember when did you actually get out? Was it 16 or 17? 17. In 18, we lost our son. We lost Dusty on a crazy ruptured iliac artery, and he was gone very quickly. But who did we turn to when we were trying to put this celebration of life together? We just reached out to you and asked, hey, Julia, can you sing a song? And, you're just scrambling and but you were gracious enough to do it. And I've got a picture that comes up on my computer of you standing there singing at that celebration of life. And it just meant a lot to Judy and I that, we only had
meant a lot to me,
a handful of people we could turn to that meant a lot to Dusty also, our Dusty. So it's funny. We both have a boy named Dusty, but but yeah, so I just wanted to again thank you for that, and it was great having you there at a time when we really needed the support of our friends, and we were moving. We'd already sold our house, and we were like less than 3 weeks we were gone. So,
I remember
it was a tough
that.
time. Yeah,
that was a tough time. My
Yeah.
boys being there, helping you load your pods up, and
Yep.
watching the heartache that y'all felt, and Crosby and what he was going through, and Dusty's brother, and
But that was our tough time, and then who knew that just a few years later you'd have your tough time too. So,
yeah, it's been a rough. I talk about all the blessings and all the things that I was able to accomplish while I was incarcerated, and little did I know that things can get worse.
mm-hmm.
I often question, even recently, why? Why is this happening? Do I deserve it? Am I a bad person? How much more am I supposed to endure? And these new challenges that I've had to face aren't my fault. And you feel so helpless, and especially when it involves your children.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I had some really good years when I first got out. I'm going to have to say the last 4 have been severely hard on me, mainly because my life has been my boys. They are the most important thing I have in my life. They are the best thing I've ever done. And yet I have to watch these things happen without any control whatsoever. And you want me to talk about those things?
Yeah, I mean, it's your story. You can say whatever you want. I don't want you to talk about anything you're not comfortable talking about.
Well,
but it is your part of your life for sure.
If somebody told me the day I got out of prison and I was so happy and I was going to be with my boys, and we cried all the way in the Suburban all the way home. I have pictures of the boys crying. I'm in there. I'm crying. We're all together. I'm holding my children, which you can't barely hug your children. You can't barely hug in prison, but actually embrace my babies and touch them and put my hands on their faces and run my fingers through their hair, which Keaton had hair down to his waist, basically, and just be in my new grandbaby and all these things. If somebody would tell me, several years later, it's going to get rough, I would have never believed it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was on cloud 9, I was celebrating life. I don't know. Let's see, 2000. When was COVID? 2020.
Yeah.
And in 2020, 2022, Dustin, my oldest son, who went through this horrible divorce while I was gone, really suffered while I was gone. They all suffered. It was hard on them, but he had a drinking problem, which got worse after his divorce, and then got worse while I was in prison. And he eventually moves in with me in my home, which, by the way, another thing, I had bought a home right before I was incarcerated because nobody thought I was going to prison. And again, my ex-husband, Greg, stepped in and paid it off so that when I got out, I had a home. I moved back into that home, and Dustin eventually, a year later, moved in with me, and I helped him and he helped me, but he was, struggling with his own demons and things, but he eventually was able to buy his own home and get in his own home and was doing really good, had a great job with the potato barn, was in the wrong place at the wrong time and was mugged and hit with, we think, a pipe in the back of the head in a parking lot at a apartment complex, and ended up, long story short, having emergency brain surgery after seizing in my car, which I thought he was trying to scare me at the time because he started making this horrible animal sound. And I thought, he was known for scaring people. And I thought he was trying to scare me. And I screamed and I looked over and he's seizing. And this is a couple days after his attack. Anyway, police come. I have to pull over. They come to where my car is. Don't know how they found me. GPS, I guess. I don't know. It was out of my mind. But he ends up going into emergency brain surgery, and they save his life, which they weren't sure they could. And if we would have waited much longer, or if he would have been alone, he would not have survived. So we go through this thing where he's in ICU and open, brain surgery and staples in his head. And anyway, it was horrible. And he eventually has recovered, and we're going on month 4 of his recovery. And we find out that his younger brother, Django, has brain cancer, terminal brain cancer. And this guy's, had a cold, but he's never broken a bone, never been in the hospital, never been sick. And he ends up with a terminal brain cancer, a glioblastoma. And Dustin at this time is still recovering from a brain injury. And so I got 2 boys within 4 months of having brain surgeries, and Django gets an infection that almost kills him, and he goes through all his stuff. And by the way, we're going on 4 years. They've downgraded his cancer to an astrocytoma, which is a cousin to the glio, but their life expectancy is longer, and there are options. It's not curable, but at this point. But we're very blessed that he's still with us, working now and whatnot. But we got to monitor that every 90 days and keep our eye on him. But he's doing well. And then a little over a year and a half ago, Dustin, my oldest son, was hit and killed by, he was crossing the street, not legally. He was kind of jaywalking and was hit by a truck and taken from us. You look at these things, and prison looks like a piece of cake to me. Yeah. It really does.
Yep.
I mean, I have said before to my friends, family, I'd do 4 more years to keep all that from happening.
Sure.
And as hard as prison was, this has been a trial for me, and I've almost lost my business because I just kind of checked out for a minute. Haven't gone back to drinking. Don't worry about that. But, just then the fact that I have not gone back to that during these difficult times tells me the strength that I actually have been given from actually going to prison. And again, I say to people, I want you to know something. These things that I've had to go through, prison, number 1, has prepared me for all these other tragedies that have come into my life unexpectedly, because it's made me a stronger person. I have told people my whole life, and especially my best friend, if I lose a child, when you lost your son, Dusty, and my Dusty now is gone, I said, I don't know how they're doing it. And these are my close friends I've known for half my life. I don't know how they're doing it. And if somebody would have told me, well, in 4 years, you're going to lose your son, yeah. I have said, just put me in the box with him. Just put me in there, because I won't survive it. So the universe, whatever you want to call it, God, universe, the preparations that I've been able to help me get through some of these things. Yeah, I'm suffering still. You're suffering still. When you lose a kid, there's nothing like it. I can't imagine anything worse in my life, in Julia's life, that could be any worse than that. Now, losing another son, and I plead with Heavenly Father every day, don't do it again, please. I don't think I'll survive it, but you do what you got to do, and you got to live for who is still here. Dustin was an incredible person, incredible son. We talk and think about him every day. We're going to celebrate his 46th birthday in a week. Mm-hmm. You do what you got to do. I'm still being blessed. I'm going to tell you, in the last year and a half, I've had so many miracles happen in my life personally, that I really can't even talk about, because they're so personal, that I know he's still around, and I know he cares about us. I know he doesn't want his mom suffering. He doesn't want his brothers suffering because he's gone. There's days where that gives me a lot of comfort. And then there's days where I still get ticked off.
Sure.
I'm like, I'm kind of pissed today about it. Yeah. Sorry, God. Just kind of mad at you right now. Whatever that sounds like to some people. But, but mostly I feel like the lessons learned and the things I've been through have prepared me for probably the most difficult, that has prepared me for the most difficult thing I'm facing right now. So gratitude. I think it could have been much worse for me if I hadn't have gone through what I've gone through. Don't want to go through them and don't want to go through them again, but I'm saying it's helped me. That's all I can say.
And it's a life. And this is what I tell people when they say, so why do you do that podcast? I mean, I enjoy people's stories. I learn from people's stories. The stories that I have heard over the last 7 years have impacted me in a positive way. Because, I started this podcast, I don't know, a year or so after Dusty passed. When I started it, I thought, woe is me. I've had so much shit go down in my life. Look at all my problems. And then I interview over 160 people now. And man, there's a lot of people that have had some tragedies in their lives and some much worse than I've gone through. And I think a lot of times it's how we respond to those negative things that happen in our lives, because we have multiple ways we can respond. Some people will go into a shell. Their marriage may end because, they see things differently than their spouse. I'm talking about losing a child right now. Mm-hmm. But Judy and I both, just decided we were going to, lean on each other, which is what we did. Did it make our marriage better? I mean, we had a pretty damn good marriage to begin with. So is it better? I guess. I mean, because we were able to, like I say, lean on each other and get through it. I know that and I was just thinking about this with you. So we go back to your first husband, Dave, my good friend. You guys had several years where you weren't such great friends. But this tragedy of losing Dusty has kind of had you guys had something there to focus on together, a mother and a father, both losing a child. And it somehow, in a way, has maybe brought your relationship to a different place than it was prior.
Definitely.
And I see that as a positive.
Well, that's one of the miracles. Dave and I haven't always seen eye to eye, and he left me, and I've told that story, and it was devastating. It took me years. But, and over the years, we've been on and off, as, divorced couples are. In the most recent years, we had kind of been estranged over other circumstances. Anger and revisited some things, for me, revisited some things during this heartache of Dustin's accident and Django's cancer and before Dusty died. So we weren't really friends at all. And I had kind of just said, I'm done. I just can't deal with you. I can't deal with the situation. And when Dustin passed, my first thought was, I can't hang out with Dave. He's going to be there. And I don't want to be with him. I don't want to be around him. I don't want to look at him. I don't want to talk to him. And here he's the father of this beautiful man that has gone. And I can't even lean on that because I don't want to, not going to, adamant about it, just dead adamant. I don't want to sit by him. There was a lot of anger there just in the loss of Dustin, but, which is natural. You go through all these emotions. And I have to share this with you and this is one miracle I will share because it's so remarkable and I can't deny it. I don't know exactly what it was, but it happened. Whether you want to believe it or not. It's hard to believe, but I want you to know we were not speaking and hadn't spoken in 2 years. I'm at the funeral home wrapping up the plans for his funeral, and I had picked his spot out in the cemetery, and Greg was there helping me, and Keaton, my youngest, and I decided to take a lone walk out to where we had picked the spot where we were going to lay him to rest. And I remember it was in November and it was cold out in Arizona. It's not that cold, but it was cold that night and I didn't have a jacket. And I remember walking out there and going, "Ooh, this is kind of far for me to walk. I'm going to trudge through. I'm going to walk out there. I want to see what it looks like at this time of day." And I had a plan and I was going out there and not, other than just wanting to see what it looked like at that time of day. And as I stepped on the ground where he was going to be put, and you have to understand, before this happened, I had told everybody, and even a half hour before that, I was still crying about Dave. I don't want him talking to me. I don't want him looking at me. I can't deal with him and blah, blah, blah. And I know part of that was the grief and the anger and all the stuff coming out. But so I was adamant, and they were all so kind to me. They didn't say, knock it off, pull up your bootstraps. They were just kind. We'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about it, blah, 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 blah. So you have to know that I was adamant. I step on that ground immediately in my mind's eye, all this black mist, and I don't know why it was black. I don't know where it came from, came out of me into the ground. As I'm talking to you today, I saw it in my mind's eye. I did not see it physically. I saw it in my mind's eye. And it took my breath away to the point where I wasn't going to pass out or anything, but I just thought, what the hell was that? What was that? And do you know that anything he ever did to me as being married or leaving me or with my babies and hurting me all those years, and the last 2 years, especially of the anger that I had towards him regarding some things, was wiped clean, gone. I couldn't even muster up a tear or an anger or anything about anything he did. It was taken from me. And by this time, Keaton had started to approach me because he came out to get me saying, we're done. What are you doing out here? And I turned around and he goes, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm great. I went home immediately and called Dave. And it has been, I have a love for him that I can't explain. And it's not in love. It's a love for a man that is the father of this beautiful boy and is my friend. And we made him together. And I don't have any animosity. I people go, well, that was God. And it was God. But I also think it was Dustin. I think he was like, do it, Mom. Mm-hmm. Let it go. And that's just one of so many things that have happened to me since my son has passed. And so what has that done for me? Yes, I think about those things and I think, oh man, I'm getting through this and I'm doing well. I have really crappy days still. And anybody that's gone through this knows you're going to have crappy days. I'm sure you and Judy every once in a while have a crap. And your Dusty's been gone 5 years, right?
8 years.
8 years.
In September, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going on a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. And so, and you ask yourself, and here's the big kicker. You never know. Don't sell yourself short when it comes to getting through something, because it's in there somewhere. Not everybody can do it or won't do it, or maybe doesn't have the support to get through some things, but it's in there and you got to dig deep, and it's there, because I never thought I would survive prison. I never thought I would survive brain surgeries with my boys. I never thought I would survive my son's death. And I'm surviving, and I'm getting better every day. I pray that I don't have any big major things happen real soon here. I just hope I have a break for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, don't keep testing me. I'm okay. I just need a break. I pray about it all the time. It's like, okay, what's next? And I've quit doing that. I don't wait for what's next. I'm trying to live in the now. I'm trying to live in the moment. I'm trying to enjoy what I do have and be grateful for and have gratitude for, the people that are in my life. Greg Bongiorno, who is helping me get back on track with my business, which I lost sight during the last year and a half, especially, and even a little bit before with all the other things. But there's always a silver lining, and you gotta find it. It'll keep you going. Seriously.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is why I wanted you to tell your story. I know it's not easy for to recall a lot of the things that you've gone through in your life, but for the people that are listening to this, it's not just interesting, but I think it's helpful also, because I think it makes us kind of recalibrate and think of our own lives and think of what we've had happen to us. And who knows, maybe there's something that's going to happen to somebody else that they'll be able to recall some of the things that you said. Because this whole experience of the even before prison, just going through those relationships that didn't end well, that forces you to pull up your bootstraps and pick yourself up, because it's so easy to fall into that woe is me. And we all do. Maybe we do for brief periods of time, but at the end of the day, you got to get out there and do your thing. You've got a store to run. You've got kids to raise, so life goes on.
I have 5 beautiful grandchildren.
Yes.
Here's another thing I want to say. And I went to prison. In my last year, the deputy warden, who they were all afraid that I was going to press charges. I mean, it was a bad thing they did to me, and they knew it. The people did. The governor did what he did without authority and protocol. And the lieutenant was going to actually gave me his card and said, if you need a witness, because he did not want to do it. And I thought he was mad at me at the night, but he was shackling me. He was throwing things around and shackling me up, and he was nice to me, but he was pissed. And I thought he was pissed at me. We'll come to find out he was pissed because he knew who I was. He knew what I did on the yard, and he thought, this is wrong. We don't do things this way. We go through protocol. You go see a psychiatrist. You talk to the other inmates. You find out what's been said. None of that had happened. I was just yanked out of there with no information. And the deputy warden, and there was a girl in there another girl that I'd befriended that had the same kind of support from her family. And they came every week and whatever. And she was kind of one of the girls in charge on the yard that worked for the deputy warden. We became really good friends. We became friends, I should say. The deputy warden later that day, after I got out of the hole, brought me in her office and said, what can I do for you? And I said, I don't know what you mean. I said, you can't let me go home, obviously. My clemency was denied. She goes, no, is there anything I can personally do for you? And I said, well, I'd like to bunk by Patterson, who was this woman that we were friends. She was an LDS girl. I was LDS. She had a really good family and support, and she just was a friend of mine. And she goes, absolutely. So I got to bunk by Andrea Patterson.
Gee, I know that name.
Who is now my daughter-in-law.
Yeah. And
I have 3 grandkids.
Yeah. Which
is another silver lining. I would have never met her, but she, I want to end on that story alone, because I have the most beautiful 5-year-old and twins that my son and her have. And I would never have met her unless I had gone to prison.
Yeah, that's it for sure. And I remember meeting her. I remember you introduced us to her, Judy and I, when we were out visiting you one time on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I mean, she just didn't seem like, it's weird to say this, but you kind of look at people in prison, and some of them look almost like
iRobot. Have you ever seen iRobot?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, you know how they talk about the robots kind of joining together? They're robots, but they join together and they cluster together with the likeness of each other. Mm-hmm. That's how it is in prison. Yeah. You are drawn to people, and it is a vibe, it is a feeling, it is whatever it is, and that's how it was for her and I. It was just like she almost had the exact same charge I had. And she did 1 year more than me, and she got out 7 weeks before me. I will tell you that our probation officers, both of us asked if once she knew I was out, we asked if we could hang out together. And you're not supposed to. You can't collaborate. You can't get together with other inmates unless you have permission. And we got permission. And she came over on Halloween of 2017 and has been a part of my family ever since. Mm-hmm. So there's another miracle. There's another wonderful blessing in my life that I can't imagine. And I don't even look at her. I can't even imagine her in orange at this point. She's not that person. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't go, oh, yeah, I remember that. We do talk. We have each other. That's a good thing. Sure. So when we want to talk about things or something's bothering us about life or whatever we went through, we have each other. And so that's been huge. But yeah, crazy life, crazy Julia. Married 100 times. Why? I don't know. I loved being married. I love the men that I married, and 2 of them now are my best friends. I feel really blessed. Well, across the board.
We were talking about Django and all that he's been through, and you think of his wife,
Lonnie.
I mean, another just an incredible person. Not just with Django and the kids and things, but she's been a big support at your job too. So
She
got
runs
some-
my store with me.
Yes, you've
And
got some wonderful
I have
people in your life.
I have three of the best. I have three daughter-in-laws. I didn't get to have girls. I have all boys. I couldn't ask for three better women in my life. And you can't say that. There's a lot of people that struggle with their mother-in-laws or their daughter-in-laws or whatever, but I love my girls and they are my life and they are good mothers and they are the best support system. Carrie and Keaton, my youngest, they are, contemplating starting their family. Incredible women. Carrie, who planned Dustin's birthday last year. And, people don't know this about Dusty, but he was our superhero. He was the oldest of all six boys. And Keaton, as a young boy, used to ask me, is he a superhero? He was serious. He's 4 and 5 years old. Is Dusty a superhero? Is he a superhero, Mom? I think he's a superhero. And so she planned the most beautiful birthday last year, his first birthday away from us. And we're getting ready to plan another one. And we're making it a tradition. We all wear super capes and with his name on the back and the patches on the eyes. And Carrie is the best support for my son. All these women have just been the most incredible women. So all the heartache and all the loss and all the stuff, Julia has been blessed across the board. And I can't forget any of even the little blessings that I've received over the last 9 years of being out. Losing Dusty is the hardest thing I've had to face. And yet I'm still being blessed. So, and that's what I got to look at.
Julia, I appreciate you sharing your story. I know at times not easy. I just, I knew the story and I just know my listeners and I know that they would enjoy hearing it. And so I thank you for sharing it. I really do appreciate it.
Well, I hope who cares about what I went through? I don't understand that. I mean, yeah, I got some funny stories. I got some sad stories, but I hope, and I don't know even right now if I've said anything that can help anybody, but I sure hope that something is taken and helps somebody somewhere.
Yeah, well, guaranteed. There's no doubt in my mind.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Well, hey, thanks for listening in to Julia and I, kind of reminiscing and talking and visiting and enjoying, enjoying the many years that we've had together and really just having Julia explain to all of you her life and the ups and downs. Everybody's life is unique, and certainly Julia's has been. All right, we'll check back. We'll have another interesting guest, as we always do. And now, let's talk story.
Down a little country road not far away. Let's talk story.